I'm Lama Tantrapa. I want to welcome you to the third day of our Resilience Challenge. Over the last couple of days, you've explored natural stance and the principle of grounding. You also experienced the dynamic meditation called seaweed meditation. And I hope that you also had fun watching how my partner Aina was pushing me, sometimes more effectively than others. Push that she used is a very specific technique that I want to share with you because you want to test yourself. You want to ask someone, maybe your friend, a neighbor, or your partner, to do you a favor and push you using this particular type of push. Now, in order for them to be able to learn how to use this type of push, you need to be able to tell them how to push you. And so I am going to be telling you how to perform this special technique. And I'm going to share with you several energy alignment principles that will make it functional, workable, and trustworthy. Number one principle is the principle of orientation. The hand that is on the center line is receiving maximum attention from your central nervous system. The eye-hand coordination is easy when the hand is on the center line. Where is the center line? Well, if you just bring both hands together like this, it's not just the line, it's the plane. We call it mid-sagittal plane of the human body. That's not where the nose pointing, by the way, it's where the navel is pointing. So if you're twisted, the center line is not there. It's still here where the navel is. But I hope that you're not too twisted and your center line is pretty much right where the hands come together. Now, if one hand is performing a push, it is likely that you have tendency to keep it slightly off center line. That's probably simply because you never learned about the necessity of the center line alignment. You might have learned it spontaneously through trial and error. For example, if you use tools, not power tools, but like screwdriver or a hammer, if you're trying to drive a tight screw into a wall, for example, it would be very difficult to do off center line. Like this, forget it. Like that, even worse. Here on center line, yeah, much more powerful. Or imagine hammering a nail. If you hammer a nail like this, you're going to bang your fingers more than the nail. If you hammer things like that, you will have no power and most likely also hurt yourself. When you do it on the center line, it's natural, effective, and much more powerful. There's a lot of other applications that we can look at in terms of finding how alignment of the center line, or we call it orientation principle, is helpful in your daily life. Now, let's just consider that there is another part of the body that you can bring into the center line. That's the elbow. If you're bringing your hand on top of the shoulder joint on the other side, naturally the elbow will come more or less to the center line because the length of the lower arm and upper arm are usually the same. So the elbow is going to be on the center line. Fantastic. Move on to the next alignment, which is the alignment of that opposite foot. We were talking about the one hand or one elbow is pushing, the opposite foot's forward. Why? It's just like you walk down the street. You don't walk like this, right? You walk right hand, left foot, left hand, right foot. That's called transverse motion. The same thing applies here. If you're pushing with an elbow, the opposite foot forward, and ideally that foot also would be on the center line. Why? If center line is like a power line of your body, it empowers not only the upper limbs, but also the lower limbs. With the weight of your body slightly more on the front foot, that foot becomes the weight-bearing foot. It needs strength. It needs to be able to support you. And this is exactly where that alignment comes in handy. When it comes to lower limbs, we call it the principle of stabilization, for an obvious reason. You become more stable when your weight-bearing foot is in alignment with the center line. If it's off, you're going to be less stable. Either way, this way or that way, you're going to be off. And the same line that is the center line of the body that you can draw up and down in front of you by connecting the hands together also continues further down, all the way down to the toes of the front foot. If the toes point forward, I hope that your knee of the leg also points forward. But let's not stop there. Let's continue this line further back on the ground. If you draw the line from the toes of the front foot through the heel of that foot, further back, that's what we call baseline. The question is whether the heel of the back foot is on the baseline. If that heel is on the baseline, you have maximum alignment of your limbs. In other words, the hand or elbow, the front foot, and the back heel are all streamlined in a very beautiful and effective way. Now, what's the alternative? Maybe the back foot is not quite there. Maybe it's somewhere here. Now try to push with any degree of efficacy, either with arm or with elbow. It's better to do it with elbow than hand. Why? Because you don't want to use physical force to push. Instead, I invite you to learn how to use power versus force. What does that mean? It means instead of using the muscular strength of your arm muscles, the triceps, I want you to eliminate the possibility of using that muscle at all. When you push with an elbow, that muscle is completely out of business. Arm bones don't telescope to project forward, so you will not be using force. Now, how can you push like this? Well, you have to lift the front foot up in the air and start folding forward. Even though this is the weight-bearing foot, I can still lift it like this. Once again, I start folding forward because I eliminate support of my structure in front of my body. And gravity starts pulling me in that respective direction. Notice my spine. My spine is more or less in alignment with the back leg. I continue the streamlining of my structure. So not only is my elbow on the center line, but my front foot is also on the center line, toes pointing forward. If I draw this line back, the back heel is also on the center line, and my entire spine is also in the same plane. We're talking about amazing streamlining of the body in such a way that everything just works. And you're not using physical force because the only effort it takes is whatever it takes to lift the foot up in the air. And then gravity does all the work. You literally start falling forward. Now, we are learning how to fall forward in the context of performing this testing push. So let me ask my partner Anna to do me a favor and push me with the elbow.
Yes.
Okay, just simply bring the elbow to the center line.
And I go this way.
Yeah. Push me into my stomach. And what we do is we simply make sure that the elbow already touches the surface of the body.
Mm-hmm.
There is no momentum coming at me. Otherwise, I'm gonna get elbow. That's not fun. What is fun is to experience the push instead of the strike.
Mm-hmm.
So, once again. Yeah. Yes, just like that. And now do me a favor and lift your front foot up in the air. Notice I'm not in natural stance. My one foot is forward, so that means I am not going to be pushed over no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also bigger and heavier. So let's do it again. Very good. And notice how when you lift the foot, you're not falling over sideways.
Mm-hmm.
It would happen almost always, if there is misalignment between the direction of the toes of the front foot and where the back heel is located, the heel of the back foot. Just to humor me, do me a favor and do the same push. Would you?
Mm-hmm.
But let's position the front foot just slightly off. Yeah, and now go ahead.
Yeah.
You start falling over sideways.
Yeah.
Well, let's do the same thing, but instead of this foot, let's put the other foot off to the side. And then just the same foot forward, and go ahead and push me with the back heel further towards the windows.
Okay.
Uh-huh. It feels preposterous, right?
Yes.
It's
yes,
like,
yes.
it's just not working.
Yeah.
That is the principle of rooting.
Mhm.
The back heel being on the baseline, obviously being on the ground, provides you with the support behind you when you lift the front foot up in the air. Without that heel being on the ground, you are not rooted. You uproot yourself if you lift it. And that's unfortunately how many people do, for example, in boxing and karate and many other arts, taekwondo. They lift the back heel up in the air when they punch. When they lift the heel, they literally uproot themselves. I don't want you to uproot yourself. I want you to actually use that principle. So would you do me a favor and push me again? And now,
Like,
with a hand?
yes.
Absolutely.
But also contact first.
Yeah, yeah. And then go ahead and lift the front foot up. Nice.
So if I
Lift the back heel. Now let's put the foot just slightly, like just a centimeter or two off.
yeah.
It's completely off.
Yeah.
Now, would you do me a favor and do the same push? But now we are going to play with your spine. Do me a favor and push again. But now look up at my eyes and push. Nothing.
No, how to say, the gravity or I feel actually I go backwards.
Yes, it literally felt like I could just walk through.
Yeah.
Now, would you do me a favor and push me again? But now look at your toes. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Again, nothing. No power?
No.
Why is there no power? Because the bone structure of the body, the skeleton, is not in alignment.
Interesting.
And just to humor me, would you push me one more time? But instead of looking at with my eyes or at your toes, look at your hand that you're using to push me.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Now, this streamlines your neck. Where attention goes, energy flows.
Mm.
Now, when you do this, you actually have the power.
Mm.
And you
That's
actually
really good.
more stable than I am. I can put my hand here and you can push me into the webbing between the index finger and the thumb
Mhm.
as I bring both hands together like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and go ahead and push. Yeah, very nice. Now, I can only do this as long as I distribute weight on the centers of my feet
Mm.
and relax. If I tense up anywhere, if I just hold my breath, it already will affect my stability. Would you do me a favor and push me one more time? And I'm trying to do the same thing, except I'm going to hold my breath.
Okay.
Yeah. Why? Because, as I mentioned, tension is frozen movement. As soon as I stopped moving, breathing obviously involves movement. If I stop moving, if I stop breathing, I actually become stiffer. More tension leads to greater instability. So tension is not a sign of strength, it's a sign of weakness. That's why we learn how to use power instead of force. I hope this is a profound lesson which has several important aspects to it. And I invite you to explore, experiment, teach it to somebody else. That's one of the best ways to learn, by teaching. When you offer this technique to someone, make sure to trade roles back and forth a few times so that you're not just the one telling them how to push, you also practice it, they experience it on the receiving end, and then again trade roles. We want to make sure that we're learning how to use power instead of force, how to use body alignment, and then you can trust this push to be a consistent strength, consistent pressure. That consistency leads to making this a trustworthy test. Please put it to good use, write about it, share with our community, or create a photo or a video and post it. I look forward to seeing it, and I will see you tomorrow.